Is there a strategy that'll help you grow your company faster? CEO Sales Strategies is an investigative business podcast for entrepreneurial people who never stop asking questions. Highly acclaimed sales revenue growth expert Doug C. Brown interviews CEOs, business owners, and professionals who serve them to uncover and share actionable tips and methods behind their bulletproof sales strategies. Topics covered on the show include their failures, struggles, secrets, and processes that help them succeed in selling millions to billions of dollars of their products and services, all with the sole aim of helping you grow your business. If you are eager to know the most effective sales secrets from the A players of the game, then the CEO Sales Strategies podcast is certainly the place to be.
Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast, bringing you another great guest, Mr. Darrell Amy, and he has a company that's called Revenue Growth Engine, and he's the real deal when it comes to revenue growth. He's got a great book out. It's called Revenue Growth Engine. I highly recommend it. We're going to talk and focus on a couple of avenues in this. Primarily, the two avenues are, alignment of marketing and sales, and how do you get to the C-level decision makers? Because there's a very simple process for doing that. We're going to discuss these concepts on how to do this. And you're going to think, oh my gosh, it's so easy, right? There's got to be more to it. I promise you there's not really when it comes down. I mean, there's a few nuances here and there. And, when you align sales and marketing and you work off the customer journey, which you have heard me say, I should say, numerous times, then you'd be surprised how fast your company will grow because you're leaving money, untapped revenue in the company by not doing so. So without further ado, let's go to the interview to Mr. Darrell Amy. Darrell, welcome to the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Appreciate you being here.
It's great to be here. I'm so excited about this conversation, Doug.
You're just outside of Little Rock, Arkansas, correct?
Well, that's what happens when a Canadian boy marries a Southern girl. So that's how it goes. I've had to slow down quite a bit, but which reminds me of one of my favorite books, Slow Down, Sell Faster. And I think this is one of these times where we certainly learned to pace our relationships back a little bit during the pandemic, right? Over the last couple of years, especially when it first came on, and the more that we can establish rapport and credibility with our prospects and clients, that's good. So there it is. Canadian boy lives in the South, passionate about helping generous companies grow revenue faster so they can make an impact.
Yeah, I have a friend who's from New Hampshire, and he married a girl from Texas, and he lives in Texas. And I asked him the same question. I'm like, why do you live in Texas? He goes, when you marry a girl from Texas, you live in Texas.
That's right. There's no snow and ice involved.
So you have a lot of vast and great background in, I would say, sales, getting to the C-level side of it. You and I have talked about alignment of marketing and sales. I want to talk about all this. And you have this really cool book called Revenue Growth Engine, correct? That is the name of the book.
And a lot of it was born out of 20, now 30 years in B2B sales, primarily in the technology space. And then for the last 18 years, running a marketing agency. When I started my sales training company 18 years ago, my first client, Doug, said, "Hey, that training was great. Do you build websites? Because our website doesn't say anything about what you just taught us." So being an entrepreneur, like all of us listening in on this call, you know what the answer was? It was, yes, sir, we build websites. But that sent me on a journey. Of course, I dusted off that marketing degree that I had in my hip pocket, but I've spent the last 18 years, I guess now 19, we're here in 2022 recording this, with one foot in the sales world and one foot in the marketing world. And what I discovered along the way was two things. First of all, a lot of times sales is kind of heading this way and marketing's heading in the other direction. We're speaking different languages. It's like your car being out of alignment. It goes down the road, but it's really hard to pick up speed. And I also noticed there were some big things missing in a lot of organizations when it came to their sales and marketing infrastructure. I called it the revenue growth engine. And it was really a model to go, okay, if I sat down with a clean sheet and sketched out everything that needed to be in place and working together from a sales and marketing standpoint, what would be there? So all of that led me on this journey to our conversation today to say, hey, if we can get sales and marketing aligned and we can get all the cylinders firing, have everything in place, we're going to be able to grow revenue faster. And this is, whether you're trying to break through 1 million, whether you're going from 1 to 10, whether you're going from 10 to 100, wherever you are, even at enterprise, these principles of alignment and all the cylinders firing are really, really critical to accelerate growth.
I firmly agree. And I mean, we both take clients on and do that type of thing. And I remember a previous client I had, they were doing 48 million a year. And when I got there, their salespeople were saying things that were different than the marketing was being, conveyed. And we fixed that problem, right? And they grew from 48 million to 110 million over the next couple of years. And they were generating, oh my gosh, thousands of leads a week that were just dying because of this exact issue. I find it interesting because you and I both have a background in corporate sales and B2B selling. And how many times have you heard a marketing department in the B2B world say to you or somebody in marketing say, those salespeople are so lazy. And then when you talk to the salespeople are going, marketing is kind of useless here. I can tell you, I've heard it numerous times over my life. How about you?
Well, absolutely. And this is an epidemic problem because I think the realization needs to happen that it's not about marketing. As much as I love marketing, as much as I love the great latest strategies and the latest tactics and technology, it's amazing. I love the marketing world. It's not about marketing. It's also, don't get too excited, my sales friends. It's not about sales either. As much as I love sales and I love even the old early days where we slid the 4-part form across and said, press hard, the 4th copy is yours. I love that. I love selling, but it's not about marketing. It's not about sales. It's actually about revenue. And it's about how are we going to be able to drive more revenue by serving our ideal clients. And so when you bring your car, if you've got a car and you've all had that car that's driving down the road and it's, out of alignment, when you bring it into the shop and they lift it up on the rack, one of the things I noticed as I was writing this book, I was getting my car aligned, is actually have a dot on the back wall of the shop. And they have a machine with a laser, and this is now way above my pay grade, but they focus everything on that one dot. And when they focus on that one dot, everything else comes into alignment. You leave the shop and you just go down the freeway with ease. And revenue is the dot. In fact, really, revenue is the goal. I would say the dot is your ideal client. Truly understanding who are we going after and what is the goal here? The goal is to get that client to take advantage of the highest and most value they can get from our organization to maximize our revenue and that client. So now when we have that goal, then marketing and sales can sit around the table together or in the Zoom room and as the case may be together and go, okay, what can we do to drive revenue growth? And I really like, a couple of things that are happening in larger organizations right now, Doug. We're seeing the rise of the chief revenue officer. It used to be the chief marketing officer, chief sales officer. We are seeing the rise of the chief revenue officer. And so I like that. And we're also seeing the rise of revenue operations as a new term, which to me, even though it's not as loosely defined, is saying, hey, we're going to make everything in this company about driving revenue. So let's get out of our sales and marketing and even customer success or operations silos, and let's point everything towards driving revenue and maximizing the value we provide to our ideal clients.
So I'm going to take a guess at this based on my experience and based on what we're talking about here. The internet kind of changed the ability for marketing to stay a silo and sales to stay a silo, if you will, because the information conveyance now is so rapid and so quick that a lot of times before they're even meeting with sales teams today, they're actually going and checking it out. So it's really a kind of a marketing play. But as you're saying, it's really no longer a siloed operation. You can't, Peter Drucker, as much as I like his books and his writing, to make, marketing's job is to make sales superfluous, I think is no longer valid in the capacity, because we need salespeople, we need marketers, but as you're saying, it's that dot on the alignment machine that's got to drive both of these. It's a team play at this point. Why do you think the silos happened in the past? Because I can hear some people on this, well, I'm a marketing person and, or I'm a salesperson, and they still have that, the old way of thought.
Well, there's so many reasons. This could be a whole series of podcasts discussing why this broke down. And it's funny that you said like the internet broke down the silos. Well, it should have, but no, it didn't in most organizations. And I'll throw a couple of reasons out. I think marketing has its own language and sales has its own language and operations has its own language, because I'm a firm believer, and we'll talk about this in Revenue Growth Engine, that it's not just about getting the net new sale. It's about maximize cross-selling more to your current clients. We can talk about 100% sold, but I think a lot of times marketing had its own language, sales had its own language. And then there was also this mentality that marketing's job was to create a lead and sales job was to get that lead to a signed order. And then it gets handed off to somebody else. If that's how you're running your company, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. Because there's only two ways to drive revenue. If you think about it, and this was the premise of Revenue Growth Engine and the principle of exponential revenue growth, is there's only two ways to grow revenue. You can get net new business, which as salespeople, by the way, is usually what we think of, right? I got the order, let's ring the bell. Or you can cross-sell more to your current clients. And what I've noticed is organizations are typically good at one or the other. If they're really good at net new, maybe leaving a lot of low-hanging fruit on the trees and just going on to the next deal. If they're good at cross-sell, and I've met other organizations that are really good at managing their client relationships and maximizing the revenue per client, but they've been a long time since they brought on new business consistently. If you have one of those going, you're going to have linear growth. If you have both of those going at the same time, net new and cross-sell, all of a sudden growth becomes exponential. And just hypothetically, and you can run this scenario, it's actually a lot of fun. If you drive 12 to 13% growth in net new business, that's number of customers added year over year, and you drive 12 to 13% growth in revenue per client, that's your cross-sell metric. You do that simultaneously, you're doubling revenue in 36 months. Mm-hmm. I call that aggressive but realistic growth. And so a lot of companies now, I think, instead of marketing saying my job's done when the lead is passed, no, it's not. If you're in B2B, there's a whole buying team involved now. So we got to keep marketing. My job's done once they sign the order, sales says. Nope, the selling just begun when they, as Mark Hunter would say, you don't close a sale, you open a relationship. So we need to start thinking about marketing and sales working together throughout the entire journey. In Revenue Growth Engine, we use the model of client experience just to keep it focused on the client. And what are the marketing processes? What are the sales processes that need to be happening throughout that entire client experience to keep revenue growth going? And the selling never stops. The marketing never stops. Unfortunately, in a siloed world, it kind of does.
Yeah, and I would also add to that, because what you said is so important. And you brought up operations, right? Operations is part of the sale as well. So is in customer service.
That's right.
And in that cross-selling component, a lot of people forget those two entities within a company. And they're our biggest opportunity it's kind of like when you look at an auto dealership, they sell you the car, but service really is to sell the second car or the third car or sell the accessories, right? So when service breaks down, sales doesn't get the opportunity to get the new sale to go again. So I think it's, what I'm hearing you loud and clear, it's the customer journey. All along the customer journey, we want to optimize this process and play team sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of it is everyone recognizing, first of all, the value of an all-in ideal client. My very first sales job, I was selling technology, office technology. And so we were selling, it was really exciting, Doug. We were selling copy machines, fax machines, dictation equipment, and a little bit of software. And so as a new sales rep, I would come back into the office and I'd have the order, right? I hold it up, write it on the board, ring the bell, everyone would have do the high fives. And I would utter these words, or any salesperson would utter these words like, I own this account. To which the sales leader would go, well, wait a second. What did they buy from us? Well, they bought some fax machines. Well, did they buy copiers? No. Did they buy printers? No. Did they buy software? No. Did they buy? You're like, you only own 25% of this account. you own this account when they're 100% sold. And that term 100% sold stuck with me. And I actually use it in the Revenue Growth Engine book. And one of the exercises I love when we do a growth strategy workshop, we'll actually itemize out the value of an all-in ideal client, 100% sold. What would they be worth over the next 10 years? And I love using the example of Apple. I'm an Apple geek. If Apple releases something, I'm in line to buy it. The gateway for Apple for a lot of people is $1,000 phone, right? I stood in line in 2007 to buy the first iPhone. I was third actually in line in my town. I was a little disappointed, but I was there. But we went through an exercise and we added up what is an all-in 100% sold Apple client worth over 10 years. And I added it up. By the time you buy the phone, the tablet, the watch, the pen, the keyboards, the Apple TV, et cetera, and all their services and the credit card to pay for it, it's worth about $35,000. And this is actually really interesting because when a lot of companies, when we add up the value of an all-in ideal client, it's usually 20 to 30x the amount of an average client. And an average client is usually someone you just went in, you sold the phone to, and you went on to the next thing, right? And this is where, when you look at your opportunities for growth, I'm all for net new business. I've got sales running through my veins. I'm all for driving new business. However, don't forget that you don't close a sale, you open that relationship. And for many companies, they could double, triple, quadruple their revenue simply by getting strategic about how they take care of their current accounts and keep the marketing and sales going after someone becomes a customer. Instead, we just hand it off to customer success. We're like, good luck, I'll see you in 4 years or whatever,
right.
And we miss so many revenue opportunities doing that. And that's why I'm passionate about companies having a growth engine with all of the processes in place to make sure you can capitalize on net new and cross-sell at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you were in technology and I was in telecommunications, which is similar. There's a difference, like, not to pick on AT&T, but, we used to say this when we were in the technology business, we're not going to be AT&T. We're not going to bring in 5 today and lose 4 and say we're up 1.
Right.
Right. That was kind of the game back then. In telecom, you would go and just get client base and then sell your base off to whoever. That was
right.
the deal.
Yep.
Right. So the generation of a new client is expensive compared to selling the same client, as we both know. So when we look at the lifetime value, as you're looking at, of the client, and you're saying, hey, this is 20, 30x, if you play this right. The thing is, what I think a lot of companies don't realize is when they play that right, they work easier.
Oh, absolutely. Because the client is enjoying the outcomes that they actually signed up for in the first place. And, it's interesting. One of my absolute favorite marketing thought leaders and authors is Jay Abraham. And Jay says, as a marketer, and I would also add as a sales professional or anyone working for a company, we have the responsibility, maybe even the moral responsibility, to make sure that our clients enjoy and benefit from the best and highest value they can get from our company. And I think a lot of times as sales professionals, we're timid. We go, oh, we're just gonna let's just get the order, right? And then we never push. And it's probably because we approached the whole thing from the wrong perspective at the beginning, which is a whole other fun conversation thread about selling outcomes versus products. However, when we look at this and realize that our moral responsibility is to make sure that our clients get the best and highest value from their experience with us, that means that most of them need, not all of them, but most of them need most everything that we offer. Otherwise, we wouldn't be offering it. And they may need that and more. You may need to add more to your offering, because what we need to do is we need to make sure that we are directing our clients in a way that is going to help them achieve the outcomes that they set out to when they first contacted us.
Totally agree. And, I think part of that is the old, and you're right, we could run a whole series on this. The old emotional, way people were brought up, right? Don't interrupt people. Don't be pushy. Don't be this, right? And you don't have to be pushy if you're selling somebody something, especially if they have a desire, they want it. It's kind of like referrals. The majority of people, when asked, how many referrals do you give? They say, well, we haven't. And they go, well, why? And they go, because the person that I was dealing with never asked.
Right.
Right. So, and they would ask them the question, okay, if they asked you, would you have said yes? Yeah, numerous times. Right. So, but I find even in organizations like, to get a referral ask is this daunting task, because people have to go through this mental process in their head that they're, some think they're being a pest, they think this, or they're not deserving, or whatever it might be. And I love where we are here, because I want to segue to, a lot of people want to sell to CEOs. They want to sell to the owners. They want to sell to the decision maker, the buyer, if you will, but they really don't know how to get the attention of that C-level player, whether it's, the CEO or you brought up chief revenue officer, or, whatever level they're supposed to be selling at in whatever department. So how do you get the attention? I'm sure people now are leaning in going, oh, Darrell, tell me this. How do you get the attention? Because I know you're a master at this.
Well, it's actually really easy, I believe. And here's why. Look, we have, I'm going to use the engine analogy because I was preparing this for a keynote I'm giving here in a couple of weeks. Just if you think about a car, your car has a filter, has an air filter on it, right? It keeps all the garbage out, so only good stuff gets into your engine. All of us have a filter. We're exposed to thousands of ads, value propositions, all kinds of stuff every single day, right? Thousands, literally, in our emails, TV, billboards, YouTube. I mean, you just go down the road. So in order to survive in our society without going insane, we would all be, and we're probably all just like really close anyways. In order to survive, we have to filter out all the noise. And the only thing that gets through that filter are things related to the outcomes I want to achieve. And those outcomes might be a goal I have, or they might be a problem I have reaching that goal. That's it. See, I believe buyers don't buy products and services. They buy the outcomes those products and services deliver. So if you sell phone service, you don't sell phone service. You sell the ability for someone to communicate with their clients, so say B2B phone service, really, really simple. Or more importantly, if you sell, let me give an example of a problem. I get thousands of emails every day. And I get so many emails a day that I have my personal assistant filter through them before they get to me. That's a filter, right? The only thing that gets through my emails are things that are important to me right now. So if I have a specific goal, let's say my goal for my business is to expand into Europe, right? Let's say that's one of my specific goals right now. If an email comes in and says something about looking to expand into Europe, guess what I'm going to open and read, because it's top of mind. It's true for everyone. And I think what's really, really critical, and I coach you through this in Revenue Growth Engine, is that you need to understand the outcomes. See, salespeople carry around a price book, which is an inventory of all the products and services they sell. What they actually need to be carrying is what I call an outcomes inventory. It's an inventory of all the outcomes they can deliver. And by the way, if you want a cheat sheet on how to build an outcomes inventory, just go text the word revenue to 21,000. It's in our free toolkit on revenuegrowthengine.net. That's revenue to 21,000. But I think what we need to just get this mindset of people don't buy products and services, they buy the outcome the products and services deliver. So if I want to get attention with a C-level decision maker, I need to have an intimate understanding, or at least really clear idea of the outcomes that they're looking for. And here's what's going on right now, Doug. And I know this is, a lot of people, there's a lot of changes in the marketplace right now. The last few years have been extremely dynamic. Before the pandemic began, Gartner surveyed technology buyers, and they wanted to buy scalability. They wanted to buy, the ability to grow their business faster. When the pandemic started, everything shifted. They were buying the same product, but the outcome they wanted was resiliency, redundancy, remote work. Now, here we are in whatever stage, in whatever market that you're in, outcomes are always changing. Products usually kind of stay the same, But what captures someone's attention are the outcomes. If I went to somebody at the beginning of the pandemic 2 months in and said, I got a solution, are you looking to scale your business? I'd be like, no, we're looking to survive.
Right.
Same product, different message. So we've got to focus on outcomes. And when we get the outcome right, we get attention at the C level. And that's the key to getting through the filter. And this topic I'm very passionate about, because I think sales, marketing, and operations need to be continually dialoguing on what are you hearing? What are you hearing from our best clients about their business challenges, their goals? Because that's the key to the castle right there.
Yeah. And then, so I can imagine people sitting here listening going, okay, I get it in technology, because we've worked in other fields too with other companies.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, and you're absolutely right. I mean, if you think about outcomes, I mean, take an automobile, before, it was the big Cadillac gas guzzler type of automobile. But, when fuel's hitting $5 a gallon in some places,
mm-hmm.
Buying an automobile kind of shifted, from doing that to, hey, I want something maybe still big and looks great, but I want something fuel efficient. Right. So that whole process is sort of shifted in buyers' mentality, or I want a hybrid vehicle today because I want to get more gas per miles or whatever it might be, or more miles per gallon that I even have to use fuel. And, I can use electricity, be better for the environment, whatever the game is for the decision maker in that process. So let's step back and play investigator for a moment, if you don't mind. How, okay, I'm in a certain industry, but it's not technology. How do I know what the C-level's thinking? I mean, they don't just put it on their website or anything, do they? I mean, how does it work? How would I go about it?
Yeah, great thing. Well, so they actually do. They actually do put some of that on their website. It's a corporate mission statement. And, and if you're selling to large companies, they're putting their objectives and their initiatives and all that, core initiatives, strategic initiatives, all of that. But the real way you find out is actually, it's very inexpensive. It's talk to your current clients. Talk to your current clients. Marketing, interview current clients and write case studies. As sales leaders, we have a quota for all kinds of different activities in sales. Marketing should have a quota, and that is a certain number of case studies written every single month. And why? Well, because they're amazing sales tools. But the real thing is when you talk to clients and you ask them, not just about the product or service they bought, but the more important questions I want to know is what's going on in your business? What are you aiming towards? What are your goals? What are you excited about? Because when you talk to your current clients, they will give you a really good clue as to what the outcomes are. And then as salespeople, then you can go on that conversation and to the C-level and say, hey, as I've been talking to other C-level decision makers, they're telling me this. I'm curious how this is playing out in your company. And by the way, when I say they're telling me this, I'm not talking about corporate buzzword soup. I'm not talking about other C-level decision makers are telling me they want to be more productive, more efficient, and more, that's not, I'm saying when I'm talking to other C-level decision makers in this specific industry that's similar to yours, they're telling me this specific thing. That's what gets attention. And this is where, read, I got it right behind me. Read Harvard Business Review, read, Inc. magazine, read the Wall Street, read this stuff, spend some time educating yourself, but also go to your current clients and ask, because they will give you the issues, and even better, they'll give you the specific words to use, the way and get insight into how they're thinking. Marketing, do case studies. Salespeople, take your current clients out for a cup of coffee or take them to lunch and ask them about their business. And you're going to be amazed at what you discover that is incredibly useful. And you will outflank your competition because very few companies do this. They're still stuck in we can help you be more productive, efficient, and enhance your security. It's all just noise, static. So I think get out in the field, get out in front of your clients, talk to them, listen. Once again, they will give you the keys to the castle.
I love something you just said. Well, everything you just said was great. The thing is, they'll give you the words to use.
Yes.
So I'm going to tell everybody a little secret. Do not sanitize the language.
No.
So if you have 5 people telling you the same thing in the same way, and they're all decision makers, believe me, that is the language that they're using almost universally. So I see so many people, Darrell, going in and they do this research like you're talking about, and then they try and they spin it right into the corporate buzz line or something, right?
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's like, if you're selling fencing and it's, sword lessons, you don't want them thinking because you sanitize the language, it's picket fencing. So don't sanitize the language. I also think, you brought up something that a lot of people they wouldn't even dare do. Go back to your clients, talk to them, right? Because that goes back to cross-selling, right? You discover some new opportunities in cross-selling and different opportunities there, but then take what they have and then go to a cold market. You don't know them, and see if the language patterns still match up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you're saying you could talk to the CEOs when you're in a sales scenario. And I agree 100%. And, I'm a Microsoft guy, so we're going to have to disagree a little bit between Microsoft and Apple. It's like
takes a village, takes all kinds. You don't have to be right, Doug. It's okay.
I wrote that down just so you know. So for those of you who don't know, Darrell and I always, we always banter back and forth. So I'm doing this right now, Darrell. I'm actually going out to a cold audience. I want to know their reaction to the language that is being said from, because there's one thing when people do know you, and then sometimes when you go into the cold environment, it's like a little different. That level of trust isn't there. The level of relationship's not there. What I find is both of these are matching up. So the premise of what I'm about to do, and everybody, I recommend you do this before you go launching tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars or more into initiatives. Make sure that the opportunity is viable. Make sure the offer, which you're going to go about, offering, exchange, quid pro quo, if you will, is actually on target. So to get the attention of the C-level decision maker, you've got to be able to speak what they're looking for in the form of goals or pain, what's going on. So opportunity of what they're looking for, or I am so frustrated with this, which is what most people teach people to do. I love the fact that you're going at goals, especially on the higher levels, because a lot of people don't talk and they don't want to hear pain.
Not at the CEO level, right? Yeah. They have a team that deals with that. They want to hear about the vision. They're thinking CEO, visionary, is often thinking 3 to 5 years out.
Right.
If you're selling to operations, finance, a little bit different. But yeah, absolutely. It's not all about pain at the CEO level. No, it's about promise, right? It's about possibilities.
Innovation, I found, is a big one on the C-level, because that's what they're thinking. How do we be different in the market so we can gain more market share? How do we innovate on that process, or, even disruptive type technology or whatever it might be? So here's the cool part of what you said. It is so easy to do. And the reason I'm so passionate about this, Darrell, is I get this question all the time.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, so it's this easy. And then you tell them exactly what you said and they go, yeah, okay, but really, what's the real process or the secret sauce, right? And it's like, guys, if you want to date, you kind of figure out what you want to date. Then you kind of go to the area where they're hanging out. And then you have a line that they might want to hear. And you ask that line, and certain people say no, certain people say yes, certain people say, hey, I'll talk to you later. That's the positioning. That's the game. And I find with C-level, it's very much the same way, but people complicate the heck out of this. People do, 22-part trainings on how to talk to a CEO. And it's like, they're people too.
And one thing I will say that I think is a major gap in sales and marketing teams, and this is something that to also add into this is, we always have to up our business acumen. If you're selling in a B2B environment, I remember I was putting together a sales training program for a Fortune 100 company. And in this 2.5-day program, it was really fun program. I said, we need a section on business acumen. And they said, no, our reps know all that. I said, no, trust me. So I insisted that we do a session, and it was on how to read a P&L and balance sheet. Like basic stuff, right? The stuff we spent a whole semester on in business school and never understood any of it, right? So anyhow, so I managed to convince them to leave this 30 minutes of business acumen in And I called it an MBA in a box. We did that training. And after enterprise and mid-market reps went through that, the number one feedback on the whole training was, hey, that was really good training. And that thing on how a P&L and balance sheet relates to what we sell was really awesome. And what I began to realize is we don't do anything. We just assume our sales reps know how to, they have the level of business acumen. But the reality is, we learn stuff in business school, but unless you've run a P&L or, had your own balance sheet and understood what that meant, it's hard to make the bridge. And so CEOs and other people in the C-suite, they want to know, don't just tell me you're going to make me more productive or more efficient. Show me how this is going to impact my SG&A expense or help me increase the gross margin or lower my DSO, right? This is, show me that. And so there's a listening, but there also is a learning component to this where I challenge sales leaders in particular, but also marketing, like hang out with the executives in your own company and ask them to coach you on this stuff. Because if you want equal business stature with the people that you're calling on, you have to earn it. And part of earning the right for that equal business stature is making sure you have the business acumen and you're continually investing in that. That'll put you head and shoulders above your competition.
Yeah, personal branding and is so important. And that's what you're talking about is like when you walk in and you are able to speak that language and convey and show them how all of these terms apply based on the solution, they're far more open to giving a referral, and they can go and talk to somebody and say, hey, look, this person understands this, that. So now the branding, the positioning of that is, okay, this is a trusted entity, which
that's right,
which happens a lot when you do it the right way.
Yeah. And I think what happens when you move from selling a product to selling outcomes and delivering outcomes to your client, once you've helped them achieve one outcome, they're going to want you to help them achieve other ones, right? And you move from being a vendor to actually being a trusted advisor or partner in their business. And so, that combination of listening to your current clients and upping your game on your business acumen, you get those two things going together and you really put yourself head and shoulders above everybody else, and you get through the noise.
Absolutely. And don't forget that these larger companies have divisions, they have regions. I remember when I was started out with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, I started out with one local office. And then I ended up with the whole state. And then I ended up with the whole region. And then I ended up in the corporate office in St. Louis, right? And so, it took a couple of years, but that's that cross-selling still ability, what you're talking about, that companies can go laterally, I think is the word, or, and you can keep, by the way, the cost of acquisition per location was zero, so it was much higher profit as you go along. So everything you're saying today is spot on. I really appreciate it. Darrell, how do people get a hold of you? And because I'm sure somebody's going to go, but I got to call this guy or talk to him.
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, of course. There's not that many people with the last name Amy on LinkedIn, but also if you just text the word revenue to 21,000, that's revenue to 21,000, that'll bring you through to our revenue toolkit. And while you're there as well, if you want a copy of Revenue Growth Engine, if you just, pony up a little bit for the shipping and handling, I'll send you an autographed copy. I want to do everything I can, Doug, to help your listeners accelerate their revenue growth because sales is the engine, marketing is the engine of economy and opportunity. And, right now we've all got to be working at peak performance to make sure that we're not only providing for ourselves and our goals, but also for all the people that work for our companies now and are going to need to work for our companies as they grow because of successful salespeople.
So that text again was, I'm just making sure.
Yeah, that's good. Revenue. Remember, it's all about revenue to 21,000. And you can go to revenuegrowthengine.net as well and access all of that.
Get the book, do the text. I can tell you from personal experience, it is worth your investment in your time, energy, and shipping and handling your money. Because Darrell's the real deal. And as everybody knows on this podcast, I try to bring the real deal in every single time. So we've definitely achieved that. Darrell, I thank you for being on the CEO Sales Strategies podcast today. Anything you want to leave anybody with?
No, other than I'll just say what we say at the end of every revenue growth podcast. Let's get going and let's get growing.
Until next time, folks. Darrell, thanks again. Okay, so getting to those C-level decision makers. Super simple. Sounded very, 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 very straightforward. And by the way, it is. So please don't complicate this. Too many people are trying to oh, what's the secret sauce? There really isn't much of a secret sauce that's needed. You'll figure out some nuances as you go along, but just follow the process we talked about. It's straightforward. Also, those of you who have marketing teams and sales teams and operations and customer support or customer service or client success, whatever you want to call it, get those aligned. Put them all on one single page. As Darrell was saying, when you get your car aligned, you focus on the dot. The dot is the revenue. You bring the wheels in, you bring up, down, whatever, the adjustments, all designed to go to the revenue. You think about any type of sporting team, right? Let's take, hockey or football. For those of you in other parts of the world, we call football soccer here in the United States. There are only two goals. One for your side of the half of the field or the ice, and the other side. So one is you want to shoot it into that net to score a point. You don't want to shoot it, behind you. But every once in a while, especially in those two sports, somebody just loses their way. They shoot it into the opposite end of the net. It goes off them and deflects in and goes into the net that you don't want it to. That is when you don't have your defense, offense, and everything aligned in sports. In business, the same analogy applies to marketing, sales, operations, customer success, and legal and HR and everything all aligned for one common purpose, which is to sell something at the end. So if you like this episode, I'm going to ask you, if you haven't already, please go up and subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the better positioning we get. Leave a 5-star glowing review if you feel that's what this deserves. I would be so grateful for you doing so. If you want to reach out to me directly, Doug Brown 1234, that is my LinkedIn, or send me an email at doug@businesssuccessfactors.com, or we have changed that name of the company now to the new name, which is doug@ceosalesstrategies.com. If you need help in your business, reach out to Darrell. If you need other types of help in your business, reach out to me. I can definitely help you do so. Until next time, go sell something, sell a lot of it, make a lot of money. To your success.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. What is something that you learned that you could act on today? Don't forget to schedule it now, or it may never get forward momentum. If you find our content valuable, please leave a favorable review and let us know what you liked. Please also share this with others if the content will help them. For our show notes, other episodes, and more interesting content and resources, please visit ceosalesstrategiespodcast.com. See you soon, and to your continued success,